Hello, this is how to install the operating system Microsoft Windows 2000 in a QEMU virt-manager virtual machine on a Linux operating system. So this operating system was released December 15th, 1999. The latest release is SP4 Service Pack 4 with update rollup from September 2005. This is an operating system from the Windows NT lineage, not from the Windows 90X lineage. At the same time, Windows ME was released, which is part of that Windows 90X line. So Windows 2000 was a Windows Server operating system, but also had a desktop version. Let's start installing. File, new virtual machine, ISO, forward, browse. There's no template for Windows 2000. Okay, let's see what should we select. The year was 2000. Majority of computers that I saw in the year 2000 didn't really have 128 gigabytes of random access memory, were just one core CPU thread. So hopefully this virtual machine will work with half a gigabyte of random access memory. CPU is just one. Disk image, let's not risk it, let's make it just 100 gigabytes. Customize. So definitely did not know UEFI. Chipset the oldest, which is Intel i440, maybe even something older than that. Disks, just IDE, certainly not SATA. Maybe Service Pack 4 had some beginnings of that. CD-ROM IDE. Network interface card. Intel E1000 maybe started working, but RTL 8139 is the better bet, the safest one. USB tablet, I'm not that sure, so we'll see if the USB tablet doesn't work. We'll need to switch to a mouse, PS2 one. So the hardware that we don't really know if it's going to work or not, USB tablet, and display style for the video. Let's first try with these options, and then we'll delete the virtual machine, recreate it from scratch until we get a winning combination that can actually install and run Windows 2000. And the name like this. So it's trying to boot from DVD. I want to select the first option, which is the desktop operating system, Windows 2000 Professional English. So A. SCSI or RIDE driver. Okay, very familiar setup. procedure similar to Windows XP. Press enter. Continue C. EULA F8 agree. Does see the ID virtual disk, 100 gigabytes, and partition space. I am pressing the enter key to install. Format the partition using NTFS file system. The NTFS file system is at version 3. I'm not sure if the NTFS partitioning is fast or not. Yeah, probably NTFS formatting was not quick. The first reboot. Graphical user interface mode splash screen. Okay, let's see what happened. Probably the disk was ejected. How do we see that? Okay, so we don't have the CD-ROM any longer. No mouse. So QEMU Linux KVM virt-manager is great for me for a ton of operating systems, but then for the operating systems that don't support USB tablet, which is a pointing device, the fact that PS2 mice don't just work, it's very, very hard for me to comprehend where this issue actually is. Why can't QEMU support the mouse as it was required by Windows 98 second edition? So because I cannot actually move the mouse in any controllable way, the mouse jumps all over the place. I don't know, it's accelerated or something. I'm going to try to delete the virtual machine and recreate it from scratch. And once I get a procedure where at least the mouse moves, I'm going to resume. I have managed to install Windows 2000 Professional in a virt-manager virtual machine, and the mouse moves okay, but why it didn't work for me is that I was connected to a computer using remote desktop connection, and only then I was running virt-manager. So from what I see, in order to have the mouse work correctly inside virt-manager, this is actually the PS2 mouse inside the virtual machine. To have this working correctly, you need to be on the hardware computer. So you need, in my case, Linux hardware computer plus virt-manager and then the virtual machine inside. If you do any redirections using, I know, remote desktop protocol or something else, the mouse might get confused. I do not see the USB tablet working because I cannot exit the grab. I need to press left control right or left control left alt to exit the grab. Let's see how I did it. So when you install, when you create a new virtual machine inside virt-manager, it asks for the operating system that you want to select. So file, new virtual machine, choose the ISO, and then in here, start typing Win2K, and then check the checkbox Include End-of-Life Operating Systems. And now the option for Windows 2000, Win2K should be available. Do choose this. It's important because it will configure the virtual machine in the recommended way for Windows 2000, which means the settings that you saw previously, so just one CPU. I have shrinked the random access memory from 1 GB to half a gigabyte. The IDE disk, I made it just 20 gigabytes instead of 100 gigabytes IDE. And the NTFS format time dropped considerably. For network interface card, virt-manager suggests that you use E1000, but still I have selected RTL 8139. Hopefully this one has drivers built into Windows 2000. And then it adds to the virtual machine both USB tablet, but also PS2 mouse. Again, I did not see this thing work. I can see this work correctly, the PS2 mouse. And then it does additional settings to the virtual machine, a PS2 keyboard. I have changed the sound from the default suggested by virt-manager, which was ICH9. I have switched to AC97. I have kept the rest of the settings with the default values. So the only things that I have changed, apart from selecting the virtual machine template Win2K, sound, I went with AC97, and network interface card, I went with RTL 8139. And then again, one CPU core, one vCPU, 20 gigabytes IDE disk, and half a gigabyte random access memory. It took a number of times to install the operating system because the installation just hanged midway twice, and I have deleted and recreated the virtual machine each time until I have finally managed to install the operating system. So this is how it looks like. Windows 2000 Professional, so not the server variant. This is a first run wizard. It requires a license key, a serial number. Okay, and from here on, I don't have many memories of Windows 2000. I remember I had a virtual machine where I was using Delphi 7, specifically for Windows 2000 Professional. That was before the Intel and AMD CPUs had virtualization technologies built in, so Intel VT-X and AMD V. And I was using the Microsoft virtualization software that was actually a para virtualizer in the year 2004. And virtual machines moved really, really slow because Intel VT-X was missing. Microsoft Virtual PC. Okay, so at this point we should check if we have network connectivity. How do we do that? We have cmd.exe. Pinging works, networking was auto-configured, DHCP from the virtualization software. The next steps would be to improve the resolution. Let's see what we can do. And I probably have selected a wrong resolution. Yeah, so on the internet there's talk of selecting a better display adapter, installing the virt-IO drivers for Win 2000 if such a thing exists, or switching the virtualization of the display technology. I'm not sure to what. Let me find out if there's an old enough version of the virt-IO for Windows ISO that still supported Windows 2000. So Windows 2000 still was supported in the year 2010. I have downloaded the oldest version of virt-IO for Windows ISO from the year 2015, and Windows 2000 doesn't seem to be supported. This is the list of operating systems that are supported from the first release of virt-IO Win ISO file. So starts with XP and has support for Windows 8.1 and Windows Server 2012 ART2. So I'm going to select a different option, which is a virt-BE ISO. Let's see how we do that. Let's close all of these windows. The CD-ROM drive has virt-IO Win 0.1.96 ISO in here. So this is the project that I'm trying, VBE, or Windows NT many versions, including Windows 2000, and it's a huge ISO file with many kernel module versions. I'm trying with these two files. So the ISO file that I have downloaded from archive.org contains a ton of versions of the VB driver. All of these MPG, MPH, etc. are actually versions, and the newest one from the year 2015 is VBEMPK, or 32-bit Windows. And from here we should select VBE20 because that's for virtual machines. And in there I have selected Windows 2000 W2K and the PNP directory. So I have copied these two files, which are actually the binary driver Windows kernel module, kernel mod, and then the INF file for installing this driver. So this is similar to a DLL file, and this is similar to a INI file. Okay, so in order to get to the device manager, there's multiple possibilities. Show desktop, right click on computer properties, system properties, hardware tab, and then device manager. And from here on, the experience is similar to what you had in Windows 98 Second Edition, Windows 11, Windows XP, all of them. Device Manager shows the hardware devices that don't yet have something in the Windows kernel mode. We're after this one, video controller VGA compatible. So let's see how we do that. Properties, driver, update driver, next. Display a list, search, let's see search. Search goes to the CD-ROM. And we're going to provide the full path, this guy. Where was that? Paste in here. Okay. Windows found a driver in the INF file. Next. Do you want to continue? Yes. Finish. Close, and let's go back to the device manager and see if the display adapter is now listed as having a viable kernel module driver, and it has. At this point, we should probably restart the virtual machine. And at this point, I made my virtual machine not bootable. It tries to use the display driver and it fails with a blue screen of death. So I should have actually stopped the virtual machine, created a snapshot before fiddling with strange Windows kernel module drivers from strange locations.